Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I'm here today with Sean Teare. We're all so excited for this because honestly, change is needed right now. And we're going to talk today about domestic violence in Harris County. So I'll introduce Sean. Sean, meet our community. I mean, I want them to know who you are because I feel that everybody now needs a change. And in Harris County, definitely, we want to see something different. So I know you have been a prosecutor for about 11 years in Harris County, and I know you know the ropes. You know everything that goes on. What do you think is the most important changes that need to happen right now?
Well, hi, community. I'm excited to be here, really. And thank you. I'm truly excited to do this.
Yes, we're good.
I've been in that building for 13 years. I was an intern while I was going to U of H Law School, and then went right into being a prosecutor. So 13 years total, 11 as a prosecutor. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the DA's office. And sadly, right now, it's broken.
Yeah.
There are a lot of changes that need to happen, and unfortunately, they can't all happen at once. And so what we're going to do when, I hopefully come in, is we're going to change a few things at a time so that we can make sure that we've got those fixed before we go fix more. And one of the first things, January 1st, that we're going to fix is our domestic violence in action, quite frankly. And so I really look forward to, during this conversation, walking through a lot of the ways that we're going to change it initially and continue to make it better.
Yeah. So one of the things, so An-Nisa has been doing domestic violence for 15 years now, and we have seen everything has been stagnant. Like there's been no improvement at all in domestic violence. And I feel the change will only come by the legal system.
Correct.
So one of the things is protective orders. Okay, I think that's the biggest heart. Every time we hear somebody needs a protective order, our heart starts to shake.
As it should.
What changes need to happen? Because I know it takes a long waiting period, constantly telling your story over and over. And I'm hoping that changes. So what do you think would implement and happen?
In the last 15 years, I think, quite frankly, we've gone backwards as opposed to staying stagnant, which is completely unacceptable. Protective orders, tragically, are maybe the easiest fix out there, and we haven't done anything. I use the example a lot. I've been married to my wife since I started at the DA's office as an intern. And she is a native-born Texan. She has her own car. English was her first language. And she won't meet me for lunch downtown because of how difficult it is to navigate.
Horrible.
She won't come into the courthouse because of how many hurdles it is just to get in. And we're not talking about someone who potentially English is a second language, who has to utilize public transportation or something else, who has to take off a full day of work or find someone to watch the kids.
Yes.
To come down and navigate an intimidating system during what is inarguably the most stressful, terrifying moment in their life, to try to save their own lives.
Right.
It is.
Or the lives of their children.
Or the lives of their,
Yes.
And it is usually combined.
Yes.
Correct. And so what we're going to do is go meet the survivors and the victims where they are. We're going to start the program that kind of jump-started and then didn't work, or was just abandoned, the cultural outreach program, where we are going to go into the communities. We are going to be where the survivors can get to us on a regular basis with multiple language capabilities so that we can get those protective orders done. Because anyone that says that a protective order is just a piece of paper is patently wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's been data proven to save lives. So that's something we're going to do January 1st, have our people, trauma-informed prosecutors and social workers in the communities with these survivors so that they can get their protective orders quickly and easily.
Yeah. And I think it's very important because the fear of getting down there alone, it distracts people from going to even
Correct.
try to get a protective order. And I know we tried for a few months, we had that where they were coming in. It made the world of a difference. And I don't know why they ended that, but I really, really am grateful if that can be, implemented again. It will change everything.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, we're putting more hurdles
Yeah.
in front of survivors
Making it difficult for them.
when it is already the most difficult thing they've ever done.
Yeah.
Is to reach out, just a little bit of a reach out, even if it was unintentional, if someone else called law enforcement in. We have to be the one reaching toward them.
Yeah.
And I think the protective order is the easiest and first step to that.
Good. Good. I think that will change the way a lot of people are thinking about the system. And for the victims, it's bad enough when they have to go to court, face the abuser, and testify to get a protective order. So, and then they have to continuously repeat my case. This is what happened. It becomes very difficult for them. So, that would be really, really the best thing to happen for DV. So another thing is, in 2023, An-Nisa was able to get SB 855, which is a bill passed for training our judges on domestic violence. We've seen time and time, over and over again, a lot of people a lot of judges, they don't really understand the trauma that the victims go through. And trauma is in all the courts, not only the DV court or family court, it's also in the criminal court, even something like the traffic court, right? If a woman who is in a DV situation, she's escaping, she's fleeing, she gets stopped, she doesn't even know what to say, what to do. So they need to know all of that. What are your thoughts about getting the training actually done, but also done in a way that they actually use it? How do you think we should implement that, and what would be the best way to do that?
What I think has to happen in that is that we have to have a comprehensive training, and it's got to be tailored toward each type of judicial bench. The criminal court traumas that they deal with, the criminal court piece of intimate partner violence specifically, but domestic violence as a whole is a different part and component than it is in family court, right? And they're all different than the justice of the peace deal with in the Class C courts, and even the district court criminal cases versus the county court misdemeanor case. And so the only way that we're going to get this, I think, with real buy-in from the judiciary is to have all the stakeholders have input into what the program looks like. The DA's office shouldn't be the lead agency putting the training on, just like the public defender and the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association and all of the defense attorneys shouldn't be the lead, but we should both have input, and we should be relying on subject matter experts like An-Nisa, like other groups, to put together a comprehensive training that we all on both sides of the bar advocate for the judiciary to take. And so that's at least my first blush at thinking around this is that's how we should do it. And I know almost the entirety of the criminal bench from county court and district courts, and to a person, they are compassionate. They want to do the right thing. In every kind of case, and domestic violence is no different. And so I think by giving them the right tools, they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah. And I think it's the tools, right, that they
Correct.
need, and scenarios so they can actually see what it looks like. Because maybe they don't have any idea what victims go through at home, and then when you're sitting in front of your abuser and you're reacting in strange ways, sometimes they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's not talking because she's nothing to say," but she's not talking because the trauma. She hasn't even gone past the trauma.
Right.
So I'm hoping that we can use the judges training and then bring it down to like your prosecutors and everybody, because I think everybody, if they're trained correctly, that will also change how things are handled in the courtroom.
And so I think that brings up a much more important part for me is that my prosecutors have to be trained. And it's not a one-time training to make everybody feel good that the DA's office has been trained. The positions move too much. It needs to be an ongoing, comprehensive training so that they're trauma informed, so that they understand what we're dealing with. And in that vein, we are going to create January 1st the first domestic violence bureau in Harris County history.
Excellent.
And that starts the moment I'm sworn in, so that every intimate partner violence case is handled in the same way.
Yes, excellent. Perfect. What are your thoughts about getting, I mean, like, like how a lot of times we see the abuser, they have the money.
Oh,
The
yeah.
victims have no money, they leave with nothing. What are your thoughts about all these frivolous motions that they file, which is constant? Like they end one, they lose, they file another one. They end one, they win, they file another one, just to keep the victim still being abused. What can we do for that?
So there are a couple of things. On the criminal side, it's not something that the survivor ever needs to really be aware of.
Right.
We get to handle that.
Yes.
Right. The civil side, the family court side, is much more punitive to the survivor when they're filing that, because even if you have, an attorney paid for by someone else, it still requires input from the survivor. And
Right.
you start to see the fatigue, and you start to see the withdrawing of participation in it. And that's all by design. And so I think in those types of scenarios, we have to be on the criminal side more vigilant and more intentional about filing criminal cases around nuisance litigation.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the only avenue that we have. A lot of these individuals, these abusers, don't care about sanctions from a civil court,
They don't.
but they do care about jail time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we've seen cases where they didn't get their children the first round,
Right.
and they will do so many illegal things just to make the survivor looks like she's crazy, or they'll follow her, they'll stalk her. And nobody takes that seriously. But they're not understanding what they're trying to do. They're trying to pressure her so that she has to give up her children.
That's 100% correct.
So I think this is something that's really okay. Another thing I wanted to ask is, what are your thoughts about, like the prosecutors are working on a domestic violence case, and they would be able to reach out to a domestic violence organization to get information, like, this is scenarios happening. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this before? Is that an option, or is that something they cannot do?
No, it is an option. But I think the only way that you're going to start to see collaboration like that is by having dedicated prosecutors that do nothing but domestic violence,
Yes.
that have relationships with organizations and other stakeholders. And I think when we do this the right way and build it up, we're going to be able to recruit more passionate domestic violence prosecutors from around the country.
Yes.
Because no one is doing this at the scale that we can do it in the third largest county in the country, handling one of the most diverse communities in the country. Being able to be informed and compassionate and trauma informed around this is going to be able to attract more. And so when we have that really running and vibrant in the way that I think it can be, the only way that it's going to continue to grow is with input and collaboration from a lot of the stakeholders, such as y'all. And once that really happens, then I think you're going to see such a better outcome for, quite frankly, always the survivors, but even the abusers.
Yes.
I think when you get there, we've got to take into account human nature, and the amount of these survivors that go back and reintegrate with the abusers is real.
Yes.
So we have got to be vigilant and make sure that we can be as good as we can at making that reintegration successful.
So that's the next question I want to ask you. So we know that all the, domestic violence, majority of the survivors, they go back 7 or 8 times. Okay.
Right.
And they know they're going back to an abuser, and the abuse gets worse each time.
Exactly.
Okay. What are your thoughts about implementing a prevention program? Because An-Nisa has a prevention program or roadmap program, which when a woman comes to us and says, look, my husband abuses me, but I don't want to leave, or I don't want a divorce. What we do, we bring them together and we do a prevention. Okay, at least you're going back safe.
Right.
And at least he knows there's somebody watching her. What are your thoughts about that in Harris County?
I think we have to do it. I think it will save lives. I don't know how many, but I think it will save lives. Giving abusers the tools to cope, the tools to not continue down this path. There are going to be some that we rescue.
Yes.
And so to suggest that we're not going to even try is, in my mind, much the same way that we approach gun laws now.
And I really, really hope that Harris County can do a pilot program on prevention, because we're doing it and we have seen 98% success of where a couple is coming in and they're already filed a divorce, or and there is abuse, and almost all the couples we see, there is abuse, but they're willing to. And sometimes the men are shocked. They're like, "You're calling me an abuser?" Because they really don't know even what abuse is.
Right.
So this is a big thing. And my last question, and my most famous question of all, how do you see the district attorney's office, the police, and advocates working together?
I think we have to be collaborative. I think that every one of the three groups that you just mentioned is all effectively pulling in the same direction. We all want to see the same outcome in different settings, but the DA's job and their sworn oath is to see that justice is done. Justice, in my mind, in these types of cases, is the survivor thriving.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like. I feel really confident that that is also the groups such as An-Nisa's desire too, seeing the survivor thrive. And if that means that the abuser is also thriving, fabulous. If it means that they're separate or together, whatever it looks like for that survivor to thrive, the police's job is to make sure she survives or they survive, right? That everyone is safe. And so we're all doing parts of the same job. And for us not to work together collaboratively, we all have different roles, but we all want the same outcome in most of these cases. So I envision us working pretty closely together.
Yeah, and I think honestly, if we can achieve that in your term, I think that would be huge, because domestic violence organizations they're not many. Okay.
Right.
And I think in 15 years, I have not seen any new one open. It's not an easy job.
No.
The advocates, the counselors, it's really hard. But it's also hard for the prosecutors.
Of course.
It's also hard for the judges. And the survivors, and it's so difficult for them. And when they have to go through all these struggles, trying to get things done, then they're like, I'll just go back. It's not even worth it. And a lot of times they go back to get murdered, right?
Always. And when you think about speaking specifically about police, we're doing a disservice to them as well. We have programs to train the judiciary, right? We have programs to train the prosecutors. But what I want to really work closely with law enforcement here is to train the officers.
Yeah.
We need to be doing a uniform high-risk assessment for lethality, at least in every domestic violence setting where they respond. We need to be training these officers to go identify every firearm that offender has access to, so that I, at the DA's office, can put it into the bond conditions to get the gun surrenders, right? Those kind of trainings will save lives, but he'll also give law enforcement and the first responders more information and to understand what the behavior, the reason behind some of the behavior that they're seeing out of survivors that doesn't make sense in a rational setting if you're just you and I sitting here.
Yeah.
But then we'll allow them to understand kind of why that's happening.
For us, domestic violence is everything right now. And getting that information through to someone who understands it
Right.
has been a struggle. Like we're never able to do that. Like something simple like the DART program. I mean, DART is so important, right?
It is so important.
Yeah, the cultural sensitive things that we can do to make it easy for the victims, so important. So I just want us to keep that as top priority because I think it's so important for advocates to keep it as top priority, but for also the police and for the courts to do it also.
And I share this not to justify my caring about intimate partner violence, because I would like to think that I would be as passionate about this if I didn't come from the background I do. But my mother struggled with addiction, and because of her struggle with addiction, was the victim of intimate partner violence, intimate partner sexual assault, sex trafficking, and kidnapping in my teenage years. So I watched this from a different perspective than I have now. And I watched feeling extraordinarily powerless as she continued to go back into that world, despite, pleas from almost adult children and even her ex-husband. So I come at it from a different perspective, and I don't see my mother in survivors that I work with, but it's something that I am always cognizant of
Yeah.
as I go through this. So you'll never have to advocate.
So it makes sense why you're so passionate about all of this. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm happy in a way that you went through. That's like living through domestic violence and coming out of it,
Right.
and you do something positive with it, it makes the whole world a different place. So like the kids of domestic violence, I think you understand what they're going through living in domestic violence, but also when they get out of it, right? So it has to be an understanding for us to help them early and not wait for them to become, like in jail, like, I mean, no, seriously.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. Like, I think this is great. And we're going to hold you to everything you're saying. I have you on recording
I
now.
promise you. And I'll come back and we will do this numerous times. And when I'm messing up, you have to tell me so that we can pivot.
Oh, yeah. You never have to worry about that. You'll be the first one knocking at your door. But thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy person right now. We're wishing you lots of luck with your campaign. And whenever you need us, we're here for you. Okay. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you.
Bye, community.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining and listening in. And make sure we're going to hold Sean to everything he said here today. But from what I've known about him already, I can tell he's very, very passionate and sincere in his mission to make things better in Harris County. So remember his name, Sean Teare.